so you can see my little thing that I did. Where did I put it? There it is. Okay. All right, here we go. For those of you who don't know me, but because most people do, my husband, I got involved with Gilda's because I had endometrial cancer, which has fortunately been put at bay for the moment. We moved here from New Jersey because we wanted to be close to our granddaughter and our daughter. And thank heavens we've been here this last year because we've been able to do a lot. Richard, some of you have seen, he presents the thing about documents that you all need, wills and life support, all that kind of stuff. Now, this project began as a project and it's been going for a very long time. Can I get this off? I'll do it like this. I was going somewhere and Richard had no idea what to do. Well, what if the plumbing goes? Who do I call? Because I took care of all of that. I don't know how many of you are the one that takes care of it, but generally in every family, there's one person who has all the information. So I was going on a trip. He didn't know where the plumber was. The picture of this, for several years when we had an apartment out here, I was either in New Jersey and Richard was here, or Richard was in New Jersey and I was here, or we were both in New Jersey. And so we had a sprinkler system that one day exploded. And fortunately, when someone called us to say it was exploding, we right away knew the names of the people. That was one thing I had gotten organized. Now, let's see if this will move. It's not doing what it's supposed to. There we go. Now, we have information. My information through the years has finally ended up in a notebook like this. And it says on the side, emergency data. And that is so that if my daughter walked in the house and needed information, she knew where to go to get the information she needs. But some of us keep it under the bed and in a file cabinet in a closet. And I have a friend who in New Jersey, but she's called me one day and she said, Ann, you know, I think if we travel so much, I really think someone should know where we keep all our important papers. And I said, that's a good idea. Where do you keep them? She said, we keep them in the file cabinet in the basement. I said, that's good. How do you get in the file cabinet in the basement? What you do is you go into the bathroom in the basement, and inside the medicine cabinet, inside the bathroom, in a toothpaste holder, you'll find the key to the safe. And that was the reaction I expected. I mean, it was so convoluted, who would know? Well, when I first got this thing all organized and put together, I copied everything because I did it on the computer. I put it in a bright red envelope. I wrote across the envelope for emergency purposes only. I sent it to my brother-in-law. I gave a copy to my daughter. My daughter said, fine. She stuck it in the cabinet. My brother-in-law said, well, do you think I could open this and go through it all so that if something happened, I would know all your information? And I said, no. I mean, it's for emergency. You don't need to know where our bank accounts are unless it's an emergency. So whoever you have, do it. Also, my cousin lost her husband very early on in COVID, not from COVID. And they did not have any kind of organization. And every once in a while, I talked to her almost every day. In fact, she called just now. She was looking around for something one day and found a giant jar filled with coins, old coins. She had no idea that her husband had been saving coins. So she's had to go through the coins and try to get them evaluated, which is something actually Rich and I did with some night. So I'm turning the page, but from here on, as I do things, please add your 2 cents because I have not gotten everything. I did include, Esther, blood type. Okay, now, the first thing, and Mary said this when we were having a conversation one day, if something were to happen, and we've had things happen in our house, I got a blood clot and Rich and I ended up in the hospital. But one of the first things you need to know is if somebody has to go to your house, is there a pet at home? What's the name of the pet? What's the care of the pet? What's your veterinarian? But you can't take care of the pet until you can get in the house. So who has the keys? Is it a neighbor? Is it a friend? Our house happens to have codes. Who knows the codes to get in the house? So Those are the kinds of things you need. Now, who needs to know what's going on? Now, when I had that blood clot, this was many years ago, and because I was taking Premarin, they gave me some kind of whoopee medicine. And so I sent a note to a very good friend of ours and said, I'm in the hospital. Okay, she said she spent 3 hours calling every hospital in Bergen County and some in New York to try to figure out where I was. So then I started making a list of the people who needs to know in an emergency what's going on. And you need to have their names, their phone numbers. If it's a serious condition, my recommendation is you set up a point person and you say to your friends or whatever, if you need any information, please call my brother-in-law at this information. And that way you don't have 7,812 people calling you. And some circumstances you have to tell your friends. Sometimes you have to tell your neighbors, have to tell bosses, work connections, and organization connections. I thought of this one only about a year ago. Richard knows to call Gilda's, but he doesn't know who to contact at the book club that I belong to in Clarksville or the women's club that I go to. So all of those should be written down with a contact. Now, this is the one that changes the most often. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, and you can read them yourselves because you all can read. But if you think of something I haven't considered on here, why are you? Okay. If you see, okay. If you see one that you don't, that if you see something that you think of as a supplier or a contractor, let me know if it's one I've missed. I don't think by this, whoops, let me go back. Just take a minute to look at it, because this one I supplement all the time. I can't see the chat, so if you can see it, Leah, if you would tell me. Okay, now medical contacts. These are categories that you need your physicians, your dentists, and their specialties. I don't know about you guys, but I think I have 14 or 15 doctors. And you know, one was my colon surgeon, one was the person who does the colon tests. I'm a little sick of it, but that's how it is. They need to be written down. Pharmacies, I realized not too long ago that I have 2 pharmacies. I use the local one, but I also do mail order. In insurances, it's important to know the company, the phone, the contact, your account numbers. Again, Medicare and Medicaid. Why did that one not do? Okay. And then this is the medical, and I have something that I think is kind of interesting that I discovered, which we'll get to, about this is medical information, personal information.
And
yeah.
and would you go back to the previous slide, please?
Which one?
The one that showed
Medical contacts?
the one before this one.
This one, the suppliers?
No, the next one.
That was the medical contacts.
Okay, thank you.
You'll get a whole list of it, so it will, you know, it will be there.
Okay.
Let me go to the next slide. Okay, when someone comes in, it kind of stops the slide. Okay, this I just learned from somebody the other day. We'll get to it in a minute. I talked to the EMTs to find out if an EMT coming into the house, if there are standard things that they look for. And the condition addressed was one of them. If you have, whoops, if you take a medication, okay, obviously I'm not real good at this yet. Also, there's the blood type for you, Esther. And it was important, the person told me it was very important that if you've had what vaccinations you may have before they give you anything further. Now, this I pulled from Richard, who is the attorney, power, who is named, all of these things. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly to give us time to talk. Location of documents is really important. I have my documents now are on my phone. so that if I go into a doctor's office or a hospital or something, I can show them that. The other thing, back with the medicine, somebody told me this, take a photograph of all of your bottles of medicine and put that in your phone too. Just set it up under your to-do list or something. And that way, especially if you're traveling abroad, which long time ago we used to do, but going through customs, sometimes they ask you about medications. If you actually have the label, they're a little bit more willing to let you have the information. Okay, I have to turn that off to get to this. Okay, it's not. Okay, and where copies might be is important. Now, again, financial information, it's not something you want everybody to know, every bit of your business all of the time, but it's important for people to know. Now, what Rich and I have done is we go through, we have a financial advisor, and our financial advisor has this information. Our daughter knows that, my brother-in-law knows that. If you have a safety deposit box, where is the key? Years ago, Richard had a client whose husband was very ill and was momentarily dying. And she wanted to get into his safety deposit box before they locked it down. And she literally called us every morning between 6 and 6:15 and said, "Ann, would you ask Richard if today's the day I should go?" I finally said, "Go," because I didn't want any more calls. Another thing I thought of is storage units. If you watch Storage Wars, people abandon them all the time. Social Security numbers, you might want to include your children, your grandchildren's numbers, so you had it when you are giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is where there may be some things that you guys think of that I haven't had experience with. But again, location of ready cash, you probably don't want to have a big note about it in your front, but it's probably a good idea. When Hurricane Sandy hit, Richard couldn't get money out of the bank because there was no power. So it's probably a good idea to have money, but not to have $20 bills, because you might want to give someone $5. So it's a good idea to have odd amounts of cash. And any other sources of income that, I don't have listed here. What insurance you have. And I just watched Judge Millian today. Somebody didn't have rental insurance, lost everything. So that's something to think about. Where you have real estate, summer homes. Let me see, Galveston comes to mind. What loans and other debts you might have. Your license plates, I remembered the VIN. Other kinds of transportation, do you have a motorcycle? Then I was going through my bank account the other day, and I pay so many of these little extra things, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, what magazines I get. So it needs to be down. This was a hard slide to come up with to make it as generic as possible. There is a temple over here, a Muslim temple, so I made it generic. What's the institution you do or do not attend? Cleric, I was really excited when I came up with the word cleric, so I didn't say priest or rabbi. Baptismal information, confirmation information, godparents, their names and contacts, personal information. This is stuff you might just want to write down so somebody knows. All of these, higher education, marriage, date, and place. If you had more than one marriage, you might want to write that down. Same thing with divorces. Same thing with spouses. You could have several of those. Might be fun to write down a family tree with all that information. I read an article once that said most people cannot name their grandparents' wedding dates. In some cases, they can't even know their names. So it would be nice for someone to have. I've been working for several years making a book like this, and it has family pictures, the identification of different family pictures from my mother and all, and stories that go with things like our our ornaments on our Christmas tree, you know, what the significance of is them, because, and the sigh here is because I have, just in case you want to know, the most beautiful and the most intelligent grandchild of all time. I was going to put her picture in there, but I didn't.
Beg to differ.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people would beg to differ. And then as far as personal information, this I thought of because I know Esther's a vet. That one I probably have some weaknesses in. Other kinds of retirement data, passport information, and I couldn't figure, and I don't know if anybody else has a TSA pre-checked. So that's another place to put those numbers. And passcodes.
And
Now, something interesting and something that totally spooked me not too long ago was, I don't know how many of you have Facebook, but every once in a while pop up and say, today is Dana's birthday, wish her a happy birthday. And that popped up on mine. But Dana died 3 years ago. And so it was very uncomfortable. I wrote her sister a letter saying, did this happen to you too? There is a system within Facebook that you can designate someone to legitimately, because people don't do it legitimately all the time, you can legitimately say a person has passed away and take their information off of Facebook. I didn't know where to put that little bit of fact.
Anne,
Yes.
I didn't see you say anything about a 401k at a previous employer.
Okay, I will add that. That's a good one. Thank you.
There are many people that leave employment and leave their 401k behind and totally forget about it.
Okay, good. I hope all of you have gone on indiana.gov and searched for, or Kentucky or Connecticut, search for missing money, because people do have accounts. I know someone who made a whole great $20 doing that. Now this one is very tough. In my group that I was in, my wellness group that I was in, there was a large not discrepancy, but there was a large difference of ages. And there were several of us who were close to my age in our 70s, but there were some young ones too. And the older of us were talking about how we thought it was necessary for our families to know what our final wishes might be, because we might come to a point where we're just not in a mental state to be able to tell them. The young people said they had a terrible time, that they wouldn't be able to talk to their parents about this. It's a tough conversation. I don't know why it wasn't tough in my family, but it wasn't, and it was constantly a joke. My mother, when she was about 72, had a pacemaker put in, and the doctor said, this is the best pacemaker you can get. It's going to last you a good 15 years. And she said, well, what happens? And she said this to the doctor and the poor nurse. She said, well, what happens if you put the pacemaker in and I die in 2 years? Will you be able to take it out and resell it? And I thought that the nurse was going to lose it. The doctor realized it was a joke, but that kind of humor was always in our family. So making these kinds of comments were fine. But, and I will tell you another little story, which I think I've told some people, but when I made up this book, I was one day working on this particular topic, where our cemetery is, because it's in Vermont. And I realized that I had no idea what would I do if something happened to Richard. Richard is Jewish. He needs to be buried fairly quickly. He wants to be married in Vermont, but we live in Indiana. So I was having this whole thing with myself one day. He was unfortunately out playing golf. I say unfortunately later in the story. So I ended up calling the temple in Rutland, Vermont. They gave me the name of a funeral home, and I dealt with them and talked to them about what we would do. They gave me a name of a funeral home in Louisville. I called them and talked to them. What would I do? What would I do? And I wrote it all down. Well, about a year later, I was talking about my book to some friends of ours, and I explained to them that I had gone through that. I apparently never told Richard.
Oh,
So he said, are you kidding? So I took it out and showed it to him, and he was fine with it, but I just never thought to talk to him about it. All right, now this is the thing I did the other day. we talked about it in lunch laughs that, because Ellen has a necklace that she wears that's help, I've fallen and I can't get up. So I was going to make for you guys some kind of an emergency medical information that you could put somewhere in your house that if somebody came in an emergency. So I went online and I found this. And this is put out by Medical Care Alert. And it has a second side on the back and then inside with lots of questions. So I called the EMTs in Indiana and in Kentucky and asked them, if you go in a house and you found somebody on the floor and they're non-compos mentis, they can't help you at all, where do you look for information? And they said that they would go to the refrigerator, which is why there's a picture of a refrigerator, and look and see. And the other thing they would look for is the location of your medications, although it's included in here. And I'm going to send this to you, but it's medicalcarealert.com/EMS. And you can get a copy of this document. And I would make one for everybody who lives in your household. Give them to your kids. It's free. Of course, they're trying to sell you the emergency response stuff. But as Donna told us and Gina, anybody who has an Apple Watch has built in help, I've fallen and I can't get up. And I had to call not too long ago. So, but if they come into your house, they will be looking at your refrigerator to see if the information is there. Any current condition you have, like diabetes or something.
And
Yep.
when you get that little packet, you can glue a magnet to the back of it, and then the magnet will stick on the freezer door or the refrigerator door.
Well, you're gonna need to put a magnet on it because the back has information as well. So
okay, so
What you could do is
the one,
put it in a plastic.
put it in a plastic and put that on.
on the fridge, and then
Right.
they can just,
But
and
I-
they could just pull it out
Right.
then.
In my hometown in New Jersey, the fire department went around and gave everybody a similar thing. And they had us put all the medical information inside I don't remember what it was, but inside our refrigerator. And so if they had to come in your house, somebody always went to the refrigerator to see what it was. So that was something interesting that I found out. Okay, it's not. Okay, that's all. So if we open it up, take off the screen sharing. I hope I wasn't too fast or too slow. Please tell me.
And you did great.
So if anybody has any questions, that took about a half an hour. I've written down.
I appreciate that you're gonna print this. Yeah, I appreciate that you're gonna print this out because a lot of these things, I like the information, but I'm not fast enough to write it all down.
No,
And
that's
if
why I
do,
said,
it's like I use shorthand and then I go back.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
go
why I
back
said
and
Beth
look
at
at
the
it and I'm
very
like, well,
beginning.
What does that mean?
But one of the other things,
Yeah.
just a minute, Donna, I'll get you in a minute. I found
Oh,
this
okay.
online
Oh,
when I was looking through Facebook. I don't know what I said that it came up, but it's from Current. And it is a book that has all of the different categories and questions. And there are all kinds of them
Oh,
available, online that you can buy.
wow.
I somehow don't recommend it because it says banking information. It has room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 bank accounts, but over the course of time, you may end up with more bank accounts or you have to change the information. One of my favorite things that I have of all time is a page out of my mother's address book, and it's Garland Junior College, crossed out. Next place I lived, crossed out. So with some of those books, you won't be able to update it. So if you are at least a little computer literate, I would suggest you put it on the computer. Donna.
Yes, I just want to know if you put the actual documents in that folder, such as your insurance policies or your legal documents, like your marriage certificate and your divorce papers. And do you actually put the
I don't
actual
have,
ones in?
I do happen to have in this, I have our wills, I have the DNR information, whatever other documents, but they're not the signed copies. The signed copies are in a firebox. And that was something else I saw on Facebook. Somebody had a fireproof, waterproof, whatchamacallit, like a briefcase that all
Like
the
a safe.
documents were in, so that somebody could grab it as they went out of the house with all their documents. But that's why I said, that's why Robin has a copy of it. Robin is my daughter. Robin has a copy of it, and my brother-in-law has a copy of it. Because if something were to happen, I unfortunately have had 3 house fires in my lifetime. Nothing was lost except my report cards from when I was young, which is fortunate. But yeah, you need to have more than one copy, and you need to have them in a safe place. Now, did anybody think of something that I missed?
If you get the book, can you hear me? This is Mary Kay.
Yeah,
The book you just showed, you could make copies of the blank pages before
absolutely.
you fill it out, and then you'd have backups for that. On the
Absolutely.
one.
I mean, there's a trick around everything. I mean, my daughter and I have tried for a couple of years to try to package this and, put it online and make our fortune. We haven't gotten around to doing it yet.
And,
Not me.
and some of the funeral homes have books like that for free.
Okay, that's another,
Ah.
I'll put that down.
Newcomer in New Albany has it.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
There probably are other ones have it too.
Oh,
They're
there's so much
saying
stuff.
that several HR directors in larger corporations also have things like that.
There's all kinds of free stuff. I'm not going to make my fortune.
And the original column, the original copy of things like durable power of attorney need to be with the person you've named. The original copy needs to be with that person.
Or accessible.
Needs to know where it is, yeah, and very accessible. Copies won't do the job.
And you don't want it in a safe deposit box.
No, no. But I think
No,
Sarah posted, if you have young children, how about teacher and babysitter information? That's excellent. I added that. I added funeral homes, have the, something that you could fill out.
Why would you not want it in a safety deposit box?
Because
You don't
you don't know how to get into the safety
because
deposit
you
box.
can't access it.
You don't want your
Especially on a
POA
weekend.
there.
You can't get to it on a weekend.
Or
And
at
you don't
night.
want your POA in a safety
We
deposit box.
have more than one executed form. That's the other
Yeah,
way around
that's a
that.
good idea. Yeah.
And my knee,
Original.
pardon me.
Mhm.
I may have missed it. I know you mentioned the Facebook password, but a list of passwords for all of your apps and accounts that you have.
Yes, yes,
you
I
named
do.
them.
I did put that in there.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
problem with that, I realized the other day, the problem with my emergency book being on my desk, which I need it for access, is someone really could take my whole life and duplicate me pretty easily because all the facts are there. When my mom died, she had a folder on the corner of her desk that had all the information that I needed, where I needed to get stuff. And I did exactly what she wanted me to do, except I couldn't have somebody sing Amazing Grace. I said I would be forgiven if I didn't do what she wanted, because I couldn't handle it. I still can't handle it.
So Ann, I'm the veteran, and I don't know if there's any other veterans in the group, but yes, I'm prearranged veteran, and I have with my prearrangement through my funeral home, I've not only they have my DD 214 and everything, but I prearranged my burial, and I've been approved for where my burial site will be. You can do that through the
Okay.
VA military.
Rearranged.
You can prearrange.
Well, and Esther, I'm a military veteran spouse,
You
right?
can do that too.
And he's buried at right down at Fort Knox, down at the
Mhm.
cemetery down there.
Mhm.
And my children know, and it's already in writing, that I will be buried right there with him, which is
Right.
great. And so that's all taken care of.
Yes,
So those things that you have through the military, that makes life easier.
it
So,
does.
So if I add the comment prearranged funeral arrangements, veteran funeral arrangements, that
Mhm.
does that?
Yep.
Okay.
Did I hear anybody say computer password or phone password?
Well, I just put passwords in kind of general. Yes, password should be there. Gina?
Yeah, with passwords, I kind of like my computers and all that stuff. I keep my passwords on my computer in a specific place. And I have one daughter that knows where those are. And she knows the password to get into that, to find all those passwords. And that makes life easy. She has there's one password, and she can find, and I keep that updated. As I change a password, I go in and update that. So she knows how to find all the passwords.
Right,
Yep.
I do that, and the person in my family that can do it is my granddaughter. She's the one.
I'm
that-
not giving it to my granddaughters. Too
Oh,
many of them.
I'd give it to my granddaughter. I trust her.
Well, no, I have too many granddaughters.
I only have one, and so far I trust her. She hasn't gone on too many drugs or things. She's turned out all right. She's 15.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well,
But-
my daughter PA in the family, so she handles all that for me. So
Right. But I think if you have somebody that you're comfortable with, that can do that, and certainly in talking to families, some children are the more responsible. I remember my mom telling me one day, honey, you only have one child. Now, my mother was an only child. I'm an only child. My daughter was an only child. So is my granddaughter. But my mother said, honey, really, you really have to have another child so the whole burden doesn't fall on Robin. And I said, you want me to raise another child for 25 years, although now I know it's 47 years. You want me to raise a child for that many years just to give her a break? And the answer is no. No, I'm not doing it. But I thought you were kind of done at 21. I didn't realize that you still get phone calls at 6 o'clock in the morning when they're
Yes.
47.
The
Yes,
other
we
thing
do.
about with the children and teachers and babysitters, if you have a dog walker or someone that comes and cares for your pets on a daily basis, that's probably somebody to include, because they're going to need to be notified that you're not there anymore for
Right,
them to
Right,
come.
that's good. I just added it to my list. And Donna, you had your hand up.
I did. I was just going to say that I'm a retired accountant, and as such, I thought I was a very organized person. I just want to know if anyone else is feeling overwhelmed after seeing your list today.
I am.
Because, I mean,
No, it
My
is
mom
really
had this,
awful.
I
my
don't
mom
even
and
know where
dad
to
had the
start.
same thing.
No, that's
With,
the problem. And when Robin and I did this kind of online workshop last summer to see how it would go, and we introduced one concept each week.
that would be good. Just some
and-
sort of follow-up or accountability.
Right. Well, that's what we did. And the only person that did it was my cousin, because I talked to her every day and said, well, what did you accomplish today? Did you get it done today? But it is overwhelming. And when I say this has been something in progress, I would say it's probably 10 years since the first list that I made. And then I keep adding things as I think of them. And then when I'm talking to people, and like you've just added today 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things that I have to add to the list. But you just do the best you can. You have to figure, I think the most important thing that you need to write down is who your personal contacts are. If something happens to you, who can go into your house? I mean, Pam was my next door neighbor. Hi, Pam. And Pam knew where my daughter lived, and she knew how to get in touch with my daughter, so that if something had happened, and I kind of knew how to get in touch with people that she knew. But if it's written down somewhere and somebody you've given to some trusted person this poor woman that I sent a text to in the middle of the night, I'm in the hospital. I mean, really? That was awful. She didn't know what hospital I would have gone to. But I told her it'd give her something to do.
My summer project. I
Well,
can
you can
do that
get,
now.
it's another thing. Another thing with the pets is they have stickers. I have one on my window that'll say, there's so many cats inside, so many dogs inside, that kind of thing. Because if you're in the house, the pets will hide. If
Where did you
a
get
lot
that?
of cats, dogs, not so much.
Our fire
Good.
department did that in New Jersey, and they also had a sticker you put in a window if there was a child's bedroom. And that, of course, has two
Yeah.
sides too. Do you want to
Mhm.
let all the kidnappers know there's a child and where to find them? But I think I'd rather have that knowledge there in the event of a fire than not.
So on my front door, Ann, I have an 8.5, 11 sheet of paper that says 6 cats inside in case of emergency, and it has all the contact numbers with who has the key.
Okay. If
It's right
that-
up, it's right on my front door. You can't miss it. It's a big sign.
and were you able to get that?
I printed it on an 8.5, 11 sheet with a magic marker.
But that's not Beth speaking then.
This is Hope.
Okay.
This-
Okay, your picture isn't up. Beth has a sticker. Where did you get the sticker from?
It's from the American Humane Society.
Okay,
You go to americanhumane.org and they will send it to you.
all right. I will
And
add that to the list.
it's just sticks to the window and it's a shiny piece of paper, you know, it's sticky and shiny, so you can erase it. Like I had 3 cats once upon a time. Now I'm
Uh-huh.
down to 1. So you can change the numbers on it as you need to.
Okay.
And
I
then it
wrote
has
down-
a line for the emergency phone number, like if you wanted to put your vet's name down on there or whoever your emergency contact is.
Well, now I know a friend of mine had she had some kind of complicated surgery. It wasn't death-defying surgery, but it was odd surgery. And she didn't want to be bothered by all of her friends calling to find out how she was and wanting to bring food over and all of that kind of stuff, which I actually thought was a little bit rude. But she did have one of her friends, and she sent an email out to most of the people who knew her and her relatives. If you want to know what my condition is, please call this number. And that friend actually sent out updates every day. And she was willing to coordinate, okay, you'll bring dinner Tuesday, you'll bring dinner Thursday. There's actually a service, Mary, you probably know that. There's a thing that you can sign, I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, but it's for providing.
Yeah,
food.
there's an online service like that. You can sign up for
You can sign up.
not only meals, but any type of activity
Driving
or
that they need.
assistance that you want to
Right.
give.
And I have a question about your bander. Is it in sections by category like you did your slides? Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna go buy me a bander, and that's what I was wondering.
But the other thing is I have it sorted, you know, it's all sorted, it's all tabbed.
Okay,
And I also I got these plastic dividers,
okay,
but they have a pocket on them.
all right,
So I can put some paper
You
in,
can put the little stuff.
right? And then I also have these clear plastic
okay.
things that most things are in. Oh, this is something else that probably is a good idea. Is
Oh, okay.
make copies of all of your,
Your
Credit
ID, your
cards.
cards. Okay, yeah,
Right. And I don't have that written down.
all right,
So I'm gonna write that, I'll add that.
okay. Yeah,
but
I'll go to Office Staples or Office Depot. I wanted to make sure. I like your bander idea.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, and I wrote this on it. Is it backwards or forwards?
It's
Wait,
hard.
That's
Um,
right.
That's right.
Because
I like that.
because I didn't want to associate it with us being dead.
No, I like that.
Although a friend of mine, and this may be part of where it started, a friend of mine from high school, when she was about 24, both of her parents were killed suddenly in a car crash.
Mm,
And
Wow.
she was too young to have even been interested in what the facts and figures were.
mm-hmm.
And it took them a very long time to get to the bottom of, I mean, and that's a pretty tragic thing. I didn't want to make this thing a tragic thing. But I think probably the most important thing you need of all of this is somebody who is your point person,
Right.
who you've talked to or, you know, seen it.
Do you have a lit where your address book is on your list of things? Where is your personal address book?
That's a good one.
Yeah, because I actually have an address book. I mean, I know a lot of people do everything on their phones and stuff, but I still use an address book. It's a leather one I've had for years, and I can insert new pages, and that's just the old me. Being in the military, because I always never knew where my, we didn't have cell phones. So it's just something I've always had. I keep an address book.
I don't.
Well, you,
I know. A lot of people
I
don't.
do,
I do.
only because I like to have a backup
I
because
do.
heaven forbid your cell phone dies,
I always have an address.
then the person can't access it, they might have to, plug it in and wait for it to charge and, whatever.
I think one of the, and again, my granddaughter knows how to get into my phone, but I think the hardest thing about what I've just done is it's overwhelming.
It feels
really-
overwhelming right
it is.
now.
It's totally overwhelming. And you just kind of have to start with a little bite at a time and then add as you go along. And knowing someone who knows your business is probably the best thing. And
You gave us a template. You gave me a template. So thank you.
yes, good.
And I would just add to that, Anne, a very smart lawyer once told me that if you don't have your next of kin in your state or in your city, you might want to name someone else to be your medical surrogate.
Well, we got involved with that because Richard's brother, I call her my sort of sister-in-law because I have no idea what to call her. She doesn't want to be a partner. She doesn't want to be a lover. So it's my sort of sister-in-law. They own a house together and live together. And they needed to have documents because back in New Jersey, it was before marriages were allowed, same-sex marriages were allowed. They had to fill out some kind of thing to be, I can't remember what it was called, but some kind of a legal person
Consort.
to be able to do those. Consort?
Mhm.
That would have
I
been
think-
good, Mary. I could call her that. Then they'd get mad at me at that too. They get mad at me at pretty much everything. But it is overwhelming, and you've got to figure out, the person that you trust. I think Cecilia's got a couple of competent kids that we met, right? And one of them may be able to take care of you. And there are people, I don't know if anybody watches the Kaminsky, whatever it is.
Yes.
On Netflix, but it's all based on one of the characters died this year, and the daughter who's a drug addict and the grandson who is a spendthrift. I mean, they couldn't be trusted with this kind of thing. I'm not sure Michael Douglas should be trusted with it either, but you really have to have someone that you're just totally comfortable with, and not everybody is. And you might give a little bit of information to this person and a little bit to that person.
And the other thing I didn't see is beneficiary forms for IRAs and life insurance.
I did have life insurance in there, and I think we had 401k, but I'm not sure. I will check.
But the IRA beneficiary form is more important because if they can't find it, it has negative impacts on your estate.
Okay, IRA beneficiary report.
Also annuity beneficiaries.
Yes, also.
That's what?
Yeah.
Annuity beneficiaries.
Yeah, your annuity account. That's true.
You just ladies are just making it even more complicated. Okay. This is what my paper looks like now.
Lots
Now,
of names.
you
I'm
said,
not
See
gonna
what
get
ours
lunch class
looks like.
tomorrow.
and now do you see why I signed up for next week's class?
You're right. You're absolutely right. It was, well, and that's the reason I said I wasn't going to send the papers out yet.
Until
Because
next week.
I knew that between this one and the next one, everybody has a little bit of information that they can add, and we all should have the benefit of all of that information.
So Ann,
The
I
only
would-
thing I feel really confident about right now is the fact that what Esther said, I can go to Office Depot or someplace and get a binder and then find a fireproof box that will hold the binder. That much I know I can do.
Well, and you need to have somebody who knows where that where to find the binder. I mean,
Mhm.
I think it's when my friend told me this day, we were having tea, and she said, I think you need to know where all my important stuff is. And she went through this is in the here, and then you find this here, and then you find it. And I'm thinking, she's in New Jersey, and if something happens, I've got to call her daughter and say, now go in your parents' basement, and then go in the bathroom. And when you get to the bath, and I have a little book that I keep all my little facts and things that I might have to get at, and there's my note that says where her papers are. And I think this is about the third book. It's gonna post it.
Ann, a friend of mine's computer crashed last week, lost all email addresses.
Wow.
Did that person have the cloud?
No,
Gotta
that
have the
person-
cloud.
Did
Gotta have
that
the cloud.
person have a backup hard drive?
nope.
I don't
Then
feel
may I
sorry
say-
for them.
May I
Well, it
suggest
was-
something on that?
But it's something that should be on your list.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, okay. Back up.
Email addresses.
Just an
Back up.
FYI for anyone who doesn't have it, cloud's only 99 cents a month and it's worth every penny of it.
Yeah, I have the cloud and I have a backup hard drive external. That's the person that's lost it before. That's why I have both.
Well, that's what
There
you
you go.
But I used to laugh at, well, I could do it here too.
Mhm.
My computer is right by the window to this room. And it was true in my house in New Jersey. And when I was 21, my mother and I tried to burn down my house by putting a wreath on the fireplace. Not a good idea. It's pretty, but it's not a good idea. And the firemen came, we had a volunteer fire department, and they came and they said, Ann, what do you want me to get out of the house before we start putting water on it? And I asked for him to get my baby doll. I thought that was really ridiculous. I was 21 years old and he got my baby doll. But I have kept the computer near the window so that if something happened, I could reach in the window and get my computer.
Okay.
And Gina, you had something.
Yeah, I was going to suggest anybody that has had their hard drive, their computer crash, and they don't have it backed up. There are several companies out there that will look at your hard drive
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
find the information, and including Geek Squad. You can take it there. They actually have a company that does that for them. And they're
Well,
really
it's
good at,
It's also a good idea to print out copies,
oh, yes.
Yes.
you know,
If you haven't
periodically.
done that and you've crashed your hard drive, then you can probably get the information off of it. It's just going to cost you a little bit of money for them to do that.
Right. But as Donna said, what did you say, $1.99 a month?
It's just 99 cents.
99.
I
And
pay
that
about,
backs up, in my case, I've got 4 Apple products and it backs up all 4 of them every night.
yeah.
Well, and we lost our power yesterday and I lost all of my recordings on the DVR. Now, I'm
Oh,
way behind on a couple of my shows, so I was getting a little panicky. And the guy came from AT&T and he said to me, which I thought was interesting, that I ought to investigate AT&T TV because it's in the cloud rather than in a box in your house.
Right.
So I think everything's going to be cloudified.
I love the cloud.
That's true because I have AT&T TV to Roku, and any kind of information, or if your house, or if you lose your power, your Roku will always be saved in that little document because it's under my mom's account, so you're pretty much saved up. And I also have an app for
Yeah,
it.
well,
And then,
I only have 3 series to catch up on.
It will only keep it for 1 year.
yeah,
put
So
in
you
here and then
should,
it
you
drops
should always put an iCloud on your old, like a iPad or iPhone. If you
Yeah.
guys have your Apple phone, because if something goes wrong, you have a backup. I know I have backup on my iPad and my, yeah. I don't have a computer, but my iPad Pro is pretty much my computer.
So I'm gonna
Can I send-
interject.
Does anybody know if I can send a book from my iPad to somebody else's iPad?
I don't have an iPhone. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
I
have any.
think you can.
I think,
So
Find out.
Ann,
Get ready to go.
Donna, you
Okay.
can try to figure it out tonight. I have it on my thing.
so I'm gonna
Okay.
interject here. We have about 5 minutes left, and thank you so much. I think this has been great. I think we could go on all day. I am gonna go ahead now and stop the record.